important things that I learned. And one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made, which was last year, was just due to rushing. So slow down, absorb it, understand it, and then execute.
All right, Tom, do the opposite for me. Give me some bad advice in dealing with past mistakes.
Well, while you're slowing down, go ahead and delete all the logs so that nobody knows you're the one that actually caused the mistake in the first place.
By the way, sorry, maybe not such bad advice. Nick, give me worse advice.
Throw a party in the data center. Booze, food, you name it. Just throw a party in the data center. Those logs will take care of themselves by the time we're all drunk. All good.
Sounds good. Let's start this show.
Get ready. It's Super Cyber Friday.
Welcome, everybody. Today's topic of Super Cyber Friday is hacking past mistakes. If you've never made a mistake before, please leave. You're not welcome here. We only like people who have made mistakes before. So we are expecting everyone who's at a certain level imperfect to be joining our show. An hour of critical thinking about what we can do better in 2026. So I'm eager to learn from all of you what mistakes you have made that you're learning from, so we can also learn from them as well. Let's meet our guests. That was Nick Espinosa, the host of the Deep Dive Radio Show, frequent guest on the CISO series, and also Tom Hollingsworth, networking technology advisor for the Futurum Group. Thank you, gentlemen, for both joining us today. All right, lots of different ways to participate. How to learn from your mistakes, or just tell us a mistake you've done. Hashtag 10P, put that on. You could join us on video. Tell us your mistake and what you learned for it with the Bring Me On. Josh, our producer, will try to get you on. Ask a question for our guests. If you see the little icons over on the side, there's one with 2 speech bubbles with a Q in it. Click on that and go ahead and ask a question. And hopefully we'll get a lot of questions, and we will vote for your favorite question as well. All right. Good advice, bad advice, worse advice. Let's get your tips. We'll play the public interest. We're going to also play a new game, which one is cheaper? And then last questions and answers. And then we will do our meetup at the end, which is our chance to get face-to-face time with each other, which is always a lot of fun. So I hope you stick around for just that. All right, let me hide that from the stage. Let's get to I'm going to ask the two of you. Hopefully you've got some mistakes you've made. So I'm going to start with you, Tom. Tom, what is a mistake you made in 2025, and what have you learned from it?
One of the mistakes that I think kind of stood out to me is that if information gets published on the internet, no matter how quickly you delete it, it exists forever for someone. I don't know if everybody out there knows this, but there are bots that are literally scraping GitHub repositories looking for certain kinds of keys, like Amazon API keys. Luckily, it was an Amazon API key that I published, but like those things can get snatched. So if it gets published on accident, just remove it, invalidate it, because it exists forever somewhere.
Very, very good point. That is a really good point. Nick, what mistake have you made that you're learning from?
Well, to Tom's point, I also learned that everything I did in high school isn't on the internet. So that's a good thing. No cameras back then like this. So that was awesome. But I alluded to like right out of the gate, like my mistake that I made, which was a huge one, is I was quantifying risk and I transposed 2 insanely critical numbers. Like that would have fundamentally changed spend and everything else. And I fortunately caught it before like the full execution of everything. But now it's slow down. You know what I mean? When we're in projects, we're in all of this, the minutia oftentimes can just kill you. And so make sure that you're slowing down. But that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night.
So I want to get to your slowing down comment that you made. I cannot agree more, because and this only happened maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, I totally got phished. And for my email password, and literally the second I did it, I realized what I had done, and I immediately changed it, put on the 2FA. I mean, like I was like, and the reason I did it is I did not slow down. I was crazy distracted, like off the charts distracted. Like had dropped my car off the mechanic. I was at a coffee shop. The Wi-Fi was stinking. I was trying to get the VPN working. All this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, wait, this thing looks like it's related to something. Like, just my mind was in trouble. And what was interesting, I was talking about this on another show, and Eddie Contreras, one of our co-hosts, he said, it's the equivalent of just spilling your coffee. We all do it.
Yeah.
We don't intend to, but because we move too fast. And it was like, it was like a mental version of spilling your coffee.
Yeah.
And I know better not to do what I did, but I did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just like,
Right.
I was like, oh, you idiot. Why didn't you pay attention? Like
Right. Right. Well, the real question is, David, how many Nigerian princes are you now supporting as a result of that
a lot,
mistake?
a lot, a
Well,
lot.
yeah,
But
just a
no,
few,
but
a
trust me,
lot.
my
Oh,
heart was
wow.
like, because it was my email, it's like, holy shit. And I was like,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, pause. Like, at that point, I just said, pause, calm down,
Yeah.
just fix it. Just fix it right now. Don't do anything else. Fix it. And I did. And it
Yeah.
was within 5
Yeah.
minutes, it had been fixed. But, and then I did a couple other things later to make it even more secure. But I remember that. Anyways, I'm
Yeah.
eager to hear everybody's, like this here, what Jason says right here. Multitasking doesn't make us better. To borrow from Ron Swanson, don't half-ass two things, whole ass one thing.
Amen to that. And
Yeah.
for the record, Ron Swanson is my spirit animal. So, so I'm all about that.
I
Right
love
on.
that. So I'm hoping people will admit to mistakes that they have made in the past. Okay, then let's talk about specifically security mistakes, because we see like a theme that we a lot of our programming is the same problems year after year after year that we can't seem to fix. So, what are the security mistakes that keep happening year after year, despite the industry knowing better? Why do we struggle to break these patterns? Start with you, Tom. What do you think? Like, give me one.
I think one of the reasons that we keep doing the same things over and over again is because we underestimate the ability of people to just be absolutely horrible human beings. Like we want to trust them, right? But
Oh my God, that is hitting the nail on the head.
I want to trust people, but I want
Yes.
to trust a person that I know. I shouldn't trust anybody that I don't know. Think about all the mistakes that we've seen that are like, oh well, we hid this resource on a server and nobody's going to enumerate that. Yeah, they will. Don't assume that people have a capacity for being both idiots but also like evil arch criminals. They will find a thing they're not supposed to find, and they will do something with it they're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and that's the whole reason behind things like zero trust, right? Why should I trust a person? Because that person is now going to be a collection of algorithms running as an agent on your network. And I definitely don't want to trust
Yeah.
it now because it has no morality.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
What were you about to say? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was
Yeah.
gonna dovetail with what Tom said, because I think we struggle because issues like what Tom is bringing up are just organizationally inconvenient. If you think about it, right? We need
Mhm.
cross-functional cooperation, but it's hard to do that in trust. We need attention, like actual attention on problems. We need the willingness to say no, to shortcuts, and like we just don't do it. So we end up with things like incomplete asset inventories, right? Privileges that users shouldn't have, expired exceptions that never expire, those kinds of things. And I think this is just a problem. We tend towards delivery and speed in business, and so risk reduction kind of goes by the wayside. And here we are. We just don't break these patterns.
Well, you know what's really interesting, and I've seen this happen multiple times. Someone will post something on LinkedIn about a greenfield security program. Like, if you were starting a
Mm.
greenfield security program, what would you do? And you realize people get pretty sort of jazzed about that conversation because you almost never have that. You're always
Yeah.
walking into a giant mess.
Yeah.
And so there's this sort of idyllic feeling of, yes, I could fix all of this if all of this didn't exist. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so if I could start from square one, but you
Yeah.
can't. You got to deal with the mess, and I think we know something's wrong. We know we need to fix it. It's kind of working okay now. I think we can get by next week, the week after, the next month. Oh no, 2 months, 6 months, the next year. Now we're 10 years into it. You know
Right.
what I mean?
But that's exactly the issue though, because okay, so think about how we measure security teams, right? We
Yeah.
measure them on their deployments, on the documentation and all of this. But if we have repeat failure over and over and over, because we're not correcting things, we've got this breakage, oftentimes we're not being judged on that. And that is a huge thing, right? I mean, it should be activity, other than outcome. If we have activity that is moving us towards fixing these issues, as opposed to just the outcome of, oh, I've completed a policy or whatever it is, then we're just going to keep making the same mistakes. We've got to move in that direction. To your
Tom?
point.
I feel like security is kind of the same way that like a banquet catering company works. If you do your
Mhm.
job right, no one will ever know you were here, but things will magically be where they're supposed to be. If you're
Right.
grading your security team based on 0 intrusions, how are you measuring that? Because 0 intrusions due to like good security practices also looks like 0 intrusions due to blind stinking luck. And so you have to find a way to make sure that the team is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Because how many times have we, well, SolarWinds is a really good example of that. You know, they were in there for years before we found out that they had hacked these DLLs and deployed all this stuff. So for all of the months leading up to that hack, they were good until they weren't. And that's the thing. You read so much documentation now of people saying, assume that you were breached at all times and figure out how you deal with that. Because the alternative is to assume that you're not breached and then find out that you are. And oh my God, our controls didn't work and you guys aren't doing your jobs. And, you know, then it's chaos. But if you always work off of that assumption that people out there have a foothold in my network, they have all my critical information, they've violated all my partners, trust, whatever. How do I prevent that from becoming a bigger problem? You will put the right controls in place and have the right mindset to prevent that from exploding should it actually happen.
Right.
Go ahead, Nick.
Sorry. I was going to say, you're exactly correct. When I'm describing it to, you know, anybody that I'm trying to educate on this, I think about firewalls, right? Your default rule in all firewalls should be block everything in and out. And then from there, you figure out what you actually need, and that's what you allow. Otherwise, you're just allowing everything in or out. And by virtue of it, you're now finding things as they crop up, as opposed to having that zero trust stance, right? That understanding that we have to approach this at pretty much in some ways as a zero-sum game, right? We are hacked. How are we hacked? We've got to figure it out. And it's usually our humans.
All right. I want to throw this question that Murad has, and I'm gonna do a slight variation to your question. And by the way, I love this question because it's a different take on what I often ask. So Murad asks, if you could teleport back to the beginning of your career with your current knowledge, what is the one best practice you followed back then that you would immediately dismantle today? And let me qualify that a little bit. There are some best practices that at the time made sense, but because over time technologies change, it doesn't make sense anymore. So I don't utilize any of those. Just something that someone told you that was the right thing back then and you did it back then. You're like, no, I don't do that. So Nick, I want your thoughts. What do you think?
All right. Well, I mean, so if I have a time machine, just time machine etiquette 101 means I first have to go back and kill Hitler. But after I've done that, after I've killed Hitler and I'm going back to the beginning of my career, I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, especially as I was getting more into management positions, was that essentially the best manager is one that removes obstacles for their people to let them perform. Don't be the roadblock. You know, if you're getting A players, let them perform. Let them do their jobs. Let them succeed. Give them the credit for that. I think it's so unbelievably important.
Yes.
While it's not a technical best practice, what it does is it fosters a real culture of inclusion, and it really does want people to succeed. Even your B players really start to understand that they can perform because they've been given license to do that. I think it's so unbelievably important.
By the way, that's a really good point. The B players can shine.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just time that makes them to shine. Like they're not shining. You know, there's some people just out of the gate, they're performing amazingly. And you're like, I'm so glad this person was hired. And then there's some people that just need a little time to get in and then they will find their moment to shine. I totally agree with that. All right, Tom, your thoughts on this same question of going back in time. What was, again, a best practice you wouldn't do today?
The one that, because I started off my career at a bar and the idea was just get it working enough that we can move on to the next problem and we will come back and fix it later. Speed was more important than completeness. And then I read Steve Jobs' biography. And one of the things that has always stuck with me is paint the back of the fence, because no one else may see it, but you will. And learning from your mistakes means learning to complete the job the whole way. Don't put permit IP any at the bottom and then just think that things work. Go back and fix it later. Don't put a backdoor in a system thinking, oh, I'll go take that out later. Matthew Broderick taught me.
Michael Williams, look what Michael Williams just wrote. Exactly what you said.
Yeah, because what ultimately ends up happening is you forget, or worse, your temporary solution becomes a permanent fix, because that's how IT works. If you don't complete the project, what you've done will be a complete project. And then 5 years from now, someone will look at what you've done and go, well, that's what completeness looks like. and then it will just snowball. It's like taping over the same tape. For those of you in the audience that are not old enough to remember, we used to record things on magnetic tape, and every time you watched it, it degraded the tape, and eventually the tape destroyed itself because you're compounding problem on top of problem.
All right, we are ready to play our first game.
Do you know what others are thinking? On the public interest.
All right, this game is a Kahoot game. So what you need to do, look at the icons on the side. There's one icon that looks like a little sort of an oval. It looks like an old Nintendo game controller. I have not seen this game, so I'm going to play it as well. So 946-4234. Enter the code in, and then you're going to enter in your name. And I'm going to put in my full name here. All right. And this is just purely for bragging rights at this point. But the next game, we will have an awesome prize we're giving away. All right. And what I'm going to do is remind you, go to the icon that looks like the game controller, type in the code and your name, enter. And I'm going to give you guys a 15-second countdown starting now, because at that point, we're starting the game. So get in the game. So 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, as you're all getting in, 9, hurry up and get in, 8, 7, 6, 5. All right, let's start this. Let's go, Josh. We got 4 questions. Let's see how we do. Remember, answer in your little zone over on the right. Accuracy first, then speed to determine the winner. And it's not necessarily the same order as you see it on the screen. Here, like what's on your pad.
Flaw and fault.
And I think you have 10 seconds to answer each one. Fault, I got it right. Cool. Let's see how I did. Ooh, I'm on the top 4. Look at that. Oh,
Kinda
Nick, you beat me on that one. All right, good job.
Okay,
Amon, though,
flaw
is
and
in the
fault
lead.
my dating life. All right.
All right.
Okay.
Reasonably close to each other. All right. Let's see the next one. Remember, these are all people searching. Oh.
You know, I remember playing something like this before, and it's never the one you think.
Well, this is
Oh.
I'm 2 for 2. 2 for 2 on this one. All right,
Wow.
I'm very excited about this. Well, how am I up? Oh, not still. I'm 3rd. Right behind Renan. I don't know. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. All right, let's go to the next. Let's see what the results were. Bug way ahead. Well, definitely way ahead of a
Holy cow.
malfunction. Look at
I
that.
figured malfunction was like generic enough. You know, that it'd be like, all right, it's not just
No.
nerds.
I don't think people. The
going,
big thing is you think people can spell it. I don't think people can spell that.
Fair enough. Yeah. I think I know this one.
I hope I got it right. We're gonna find out.
These all just remind me of my dating life.
Oh, I blew this one.
Really?
I said issue 2. Glitch. I thought that was going to be the lowest.
Wow.
You know,
Like-
there's probably a nightclub called Glitch. That's why it's so high.
Right.
I don't think anyone got that. No one
Wow.
got that one.
That was brutal.
Well, I mean, somebody did. I think a couple people. But look at that. All very close. Wow. All right, last one. This will determine the winner. Oh, God. I'm going to go. All right. I hope I got it right.
See, I'm thinking medical on this one.
Ooh.
Irregularity. I'm thinking medical. It was discrepancy?
Yeah.
You want to talk about spelling, David? I mean,
Wow.
Yeah, nobody
Yeah,
spells
holy
that
cow.
right.
Well, that's got to be like accounting people looking for, there's a
Oh,
discrepancy in these
yeah.
accounts.
You know what? It's because we do the searches local. It's because tax time is coming up.
see, I thought regularity.
Yep.
I thought healthcare.
Yep.
Oh.
Good call on that one, Tom. All right,
Oh,
let's see who won.
I didn't.
Neither did I. Renan was 1745. Somebody got the David P. I'm going to guess that's David Peach. And 2400. Who did that?
Wow.
Charlie.
Well done.
And kudos. All right. Well, Charlie, you just get bragging power on this. Runners up. I came in 5th and Darius in 4th. Good job there for us.
Wow.
I'm guessing a lot of people got only 1 or 0.
Yeah, I got the first one. Other than that, and that was pure luck.
Did anyone go for first? Did anyone go 0 for 4? I don't know if anyone went 0 for 4 on that one. All right. Do you want me? Oh, get your questions in. By the way, we just had one question from Rod. Get your questions in this, but by the way, we still want to hear your mistakes. What mistakes you made and how you learned from them. Now, here's a question: and people kind of do this at the end of the year when they think about their New Year's resolutions, which nobody keeps ever. We know that, but we could do kind of a personal reflection. We do it personally about our lives, and also we can do it professionally. Like, what is it we can look at? Like, are there questions we can be asking ourselves? Like, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? Tom, well, here, Nick, I'll ask you. You're not in your head first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I don't like to think about, to what you said, like what went wrong, right? I mean, for me, like if I'm framing it for myself, it's like, what assumptions did I make, right? Like what assumptions proved false, So it kind of forces me, I think, to basically like confront. Well, psychologists have a term for it. It's called mental models. It's not just the outcome we get, but it's actually understanding the process as well. And so I personally think reflection should be like structured and all of that.
Right.
You shouldn't spend all day. It should be time bound, like that kind of thing. But I think really understanding that at a deep level, that my inaction should not be excused. I should be thinking these things through, I think, is important.
What about you, Tom?
So there's a saying from Rising Sun, the movie with Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes. Fix the problem, not the blame. You cannot be reflective if the first thing you want to do is blame anybody, including
By the way,
yourself.
great point to bring up. I've been at companies that the blame is absolutely the first thing they want to deal with.
It is endemic to the American business system because they don't care that there was a mistake. They want to know whose fault it was.
Yeah.
And in the proverb is in the Japanese system, they want to fix the problem, and then later we will sort that out. And when you do that, it leads to better results because the problem gets taken care of, right? We fat finger a password, we accidentally give user rights to somebody that we shouldn't. And what usually happens, kind of going back to what I said with the bad advice at the beginning of the show, if I know that I'm going to get blamed for a mistake, what am I going to try to do? I'm going to try to avoid getting blamed for it, which means I'm either going to hide it or I'm going to remove proof that it happened. And then as soon as somebody comes looking for me, I'm going to stonewall everybody. So when you're doing this for yourself, write down what happened, right? Where the process that led you to where you're at. And at no point should you say, oh yeah, that's where I screwed up. Say, this is where the mistake happened. So how do I fix it next time? Next time I will slow down. Next time I will double check my numbers to make sure that I don't transpose.
Yeah.
Tom, I'm glad you brought that up because we've talked about this on the show before. It's really, really important that you do not have a culture of blame, and not just say it like paddling. Oh, we won't blame you if you tell us that you accidentally clicked a link and also entered your password for the admin password to God knows what. Like, because things don't get fixed if you don't make it clear you don't have a culture of blame.
Right.
So I do want to tell a story about this because kind of going back to what Nick was saying about having good managers. One of the best management experiences I ever had in my life was this exact experience. I messed up. I did something that I didn't accomplish the goal, went back to the office, and my manager at the time said, the thing you never want to hear, I'm disappointed in you. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Of course, I'm like, oh my God, he's disappointed in me. But more importantly, when someone came looking to blame me for this problem, my manager put a hand in the guy's face and said, it's dealt with. And that was it. Like, you're not going to get to yell at him. You're not going to get to say, this could cost our company millions of dollars. It's dealt with. There's no blame assigned. We'll take care of it. And that is what makes you want to work for a person because they're more worried about the problem than who's going to get yelled at. And if you as a manager or someone who manages people take that role, I promise you your team will become a lot more productive because they're not worried for their job.
Right, right. And the cultures I've seen, to both of your points, that are the worst cultures out there, the ones where, like, well, why didn't you tell anybody your computer was infected? Well, I was afraid I'd get fired. I was afraid,
Mhm.
this would be my,
Right.
where it's like, no, like, this is why now the entire company's impacted, and it is culture. I think it's one of the most
Right.
important things that we neglect, especially like in IT and cybersecurity and all of that. We're so focused on technology and process or risk or whatever it is that we've got to take care of our people. It's so unbelievably important. So unbelievably important.
I always see this as an I fail when we make a mistake, but my team succeeds when someone does things well. I also make sure to praise the individual. And also, Andrew Aiken said something similar here. I take the blame for mistakes made by my team, but I make sure to give credit to the individuals when they do things right.
Mhm.
That is a key
Yeah.
manager role. That
It's
is
leading from the
really
front.
important
It's leading
because
from the front.
right, because if you and there, it's not just because Andrew's a nice guy and wonderful like that. There's a real key reason to doing that. If I am working, like say I'm working with Nick, and Nick's team somehow screws something up. If Nick says, "I'm sorry, but my employee person X made the mistake," I realize Nick's not owning up to this. He's trying to, throw one of his employees under the bus. But it
Mhm.
says, "I'm sorry, we made a mistake." You don't have to say I, but we made a mistake, not identifying an
Mhm.
individual, and we're going to fix it. That shows that, oh, he still wants to be a partner, he still wants to work with me. But if you
Mhm.
immediately throw somebody under the bus in front of somebody else, that's not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. 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 That's absolutely terrible. And also, shout out to Rising Sun. Like, I haven't seen that movie in 20 years. There you go. Snipes pre-tax problems. Well done.
um, I want to throw out something else in terms of something I learned. It is one of those things like those hard lessons learned. So one thing I've seen is like, there's sometimes we're working with the technology when the day we bought it worked fine, but we've hold on to it, we hold on to it, we hold on to it, and then we realize uh this doesn't work anymore. But it's like the lift and shift is so painful, just the thought of it, you don't want to do it. And here's the example I'll give. So years ago, I used to use, and you may or may not know of this, but something called Business Contact Manager that was part of Outlook.
Yeah.
This thing
UCM.
proposed to be a CRM. It was not. It was beyond awful. And the major problem was I couldn't get data out of it. I could get limited data, but I had all this notes data. I couldn't get any of it out. I
Mm.
literally hired someone in the Philippines to copy and paste stuff from the
Ugh.
BCM into, like, that was the only way to do it. It was awful. I mean, I had long conversations with Microsoft about it. And to a percentage of it got done, a percentage did not. But what I learned from that experience was A, get off technology you hate a lot faster, but more, never use a technology you can't get out of.
Mm.
Don't get locked in. And I'm sure we've all been locked in at some point and not realizing, especially early on. Nick, yes?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, closed ecosystems are not fun. I mean, my first computer was an IBM PC Junior, which was a turd of a computer compared to like a lot of the others that were
Yeah.
out there. But that's what my dad got. And to that point, having systems that you're not able to export data from. And for the record, I do remember BCM, and that really just underscores the old adage that there's the wrong way, the right way, and the Microsoft way, which is usually the wrong way, only a whole lot faster. Um, so yeah, nobody should use BCM. But yeah, I've had multiple instances with that growing up in DOS and Windows, and I mean, I can't think of one thing off the top of my head. Oh no, I did have like a contact manager back in the day too. Act, was it called Act?
Yes. Oh, I met the guy who started Act.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and I just remember having a devil of a time with that one.
Well,
Yeah,
they were the granddaddy at the time, Act.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they
I
were the
just
kings.
Oh no, I know, but it's like it just took me back. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Jason Thomas remembers that. I remember there was some of these early devices, I'm talking pre-Palm Pilot, um,
Mm. Oh,
were
that's
like the
another
big
one.
thing is they could
Yeah.
integrate with Act and you could
Mhm.
import your contacts into the device, digital
Mhm.
device.
Yeah, I
Um,
had a compact, like, handheld PDA. I remember
I
that
had
back
I had some I had a
yeah,
handheld. I can't remember mine like flipped up. I can't remember the name of the thing.
no.
Anyways, All right, we have some questions that came in from our audience. Let's go. Let's get to them. From Aman, show on stage. What mistakes have you made that you initially thought was small, but actually turned out to be quite significant? Well, I'll say that one I just described. Oh, that became a doozy, and it was. I don't know why I waited so long, but it was like when I moved over to Google, and once we did, I was like, it was one of those classic things that I'm sure we've all felt of like, why didn't I do this a year ago? I've had a lot of those feelings. So, what started small turned into a massive mistake, Tom.
I accidentally deleted somebody's email box from our Novell GroupWise server, and it
Oh,
turned out that there were government contract paperwork in there, and it took us 6 months to get all of the paperwork stuff sorted out because I accidentally, and it wasn't even a massive mistake. It was an employee got married, and
yeah.
so we were trying to change the name on the mailbox, and so I deleted the old one before everything got synced over, and then I got chewed on for that one because they're like, well, why did you do that? I'm like, because that's what we do. But that's the thing that taught me that until you know for certain that everything has been moved, you do not touch anything destructively. And
Yeah.
it just snowballed, right? Because you're like, well, where was it backed up? Well, how is it backed up? Well, how's that backup stored? And you're like, you're trying to mount remote mailboxes to a
Right, and you were
server.
moving fast. This goes back to the slow
Yeah.
the friggin' hell down.
Yeah, but you the thing is, you cannot ever assume that something is an innocent little mistake because
Yes.
all it takes is building a house of cards on it.
Right. What about you, Nick? Small mistake that ballooned.
So, so I will throw somebody under the bus for this one, and that would be my ex-girlfriend. But this is like 15, 20 years ago. Microsoft Exchange had a client with a problem. So I've got it offline. I'm an ESE util, which I'm assuming you guys know what that is. And I'm at a prompt where I have to click yes or no, depending on what I want to do in terms of like defragging or fixing or whatever it was. And my girlfriend at the time came over and playfully hit the space bar and executed it, which she thought she was, joking around, and it executed a fix that like just bombed the database out. And I spent like all night trying to like unstick that when my clear mistake, and it was such a minor thing, right? But I had to restore everything, from it. They lost
Wow.
data. It was a complete and utter mess. And so I just, in that moment, I should have duplicated the database, not just relied on the backup. You know what I mean? So it was just, but yeah, that was just that one little like choice of, I have a backup and I know that I'm going to read thoroughly, so you never know what's going to happen, right? Could have been a bird swooping in and hitting my keyboard.
Well, also this goes to architecturally things that can be so destructive. Here, what he said, I ran it, James Sparrenberg. I ran a script that I didn't feel comfortable with, that I was told shut up and run it. I did it. It deleted perforces config. Is that right? Perforce. I don't know what perforce is.
Database. I
database
actually don't know what
problem.
that is, James.
I don't know what it is either. But no, for example, I like technology that forces us to slow down when we might do something stupid. So, for example, I use a database it's kind of a CRM type thing called Streak, which I only use minimally the way I use it. But the idea being, whenever I delete huge groups of things, it always gives me, do you want to delete that? And it makes me type in the number I'm deleting. You're deleting 162. Type 162 delete and then click OK. That is very conscious. You need to do it. And that I truly love that sort of blocker that prevents me from doing something that destructive.
But even then, if you think you know your job well, because you get prompted, are you sure you want to do this? Why enter?
Oh no, yeah, because you don't want the quick one, because
Right.
how often you get that and you could just hit enter, not even reading it, and like, oh wait, I didn't, because it's the default is usually that, although sometimes they're smart
Right.
enough, default is to know. But I like the fact that it forces me to type in the number that I'm deleting, which
Right.
it's not that much skin up my nose, and it definitely protects me from doing incredibly stupid things,
Crazy.
which is a good thing. All right, get some questions in, people. Oh, you know what I did not do? Let's do this, because I put it as a small, but I'm going to put it as a huge call to action. Let's take a look at that. Whoops, show on stage. I'm sorry. Our next event is going to be 1 week from today, hacking employee retention. Do me a favor, click on the register button for that and register for an event that's going to happen in 1 week. Hacking employee retention. As I always like to say, you click on that, it opens up another window. You can register for the other event and still be in this event. It will not take you out of this event. So go ahead and do just that. If you've already registered, you may click the X, but you may not click the X if you have not registered, because I want all of you to be there. By the way, I want to remind everybody to stick around, because in exactly 25 minutes, actually, we are going to have our post-show meetup where we get to all chat face to face. And I would like to chat with you, especially if you've never come to one of these, our like post-show meetups, or you've never come to one of these. Actually, I'd be interested to know, anybody here for the very first time? Pipe up in the chat room. I'm seeing some of the regulars piping up, which I still love as well. Get your questions in as well. But I have more questions for you, gentlemen. Let's get to the next one. This is a really good question here, and I'm going to start with you, Tom, on this. Why do we treat, and this is traditional, not, I think some people are forward thinking, don't do this, but why do we treat security incidents as isolated failures instead of symptoms of systemic problems? What would change if we fix the system? So the idea of, the classic case of like someone clicking accidentally enter or a space bar and all of a sudden running a thing, like, shouldn't we be looking at a way to not let that happen again? And, the quick thing we want to do is just fix the problem immediately. But then we like, then we got all this stuff. We don't think to, reflect back and like, how can we fix this systemically? Is it just because we're all rushed, or we're not even thinking about it? What do you think, Tom?
Worse, our brain is working against us, because brains love pattern recognition, and pattern recognition when you write it down looks an awful lot like a process, right? Like, we're going to do step 1 and then step 2 and then step 3, and it's going to work. Well, what if you do the steps out of order? Well, obviously the step is the problem. It's not the process that I documented wrong, because my process couldn't be wrong. I'm not going to completely blow this up and have to recreate all that work, and keep with the pattern, man. Just it's from Aliens, right? It's reading right, man. Well, you're not reading it right. Like, we always assume that the step is the failure, and not, the reason why step 3 failed is because you were supposed to reboot after step 2, but you didn't. Yeah. And you're like, oh yeah. And that's why you have to be very careful when you do this. And you have to be willing to like basically scrub it all the way back to square one and say, this process doesn't work for us because of these things. And people get really defensive about that too. Like, I've been on projects before where I'm like, this process is broken. No, it's not. You just need to do it that way, my way, and it'll work every time. And then when you sit there and step them through the process and you stop at certain points and go, is this really what you meant to do? No. That's actually wrong. What I do, so the process is broken, and you've just kept patching it, and you've never documented your patches, instead of going back and saying, what I need to do is start all over again and write it down the way I do it, not the way I think it should be done.
Good point. Yeah. What do you think?
And
very good point, Tom.
I think that is an excellent point. Isolated failures, or are they actually systemic? And I think the reason why we treat incidents as isolated, honestly, is because it's emotionally and politically easier, right? Isolated failures, if you just think about it for a second, can be quickly patched. They can be blamed. We talked about that. You can close out a ticket, whatever it is. But systemic problems actually require confronting things like architectural decisions, or the incentives on it, leadership trade-offs that they might have had a rationale to do A versus B, whatever that is, and maybe that's not defensible anymore. And so, like, I think that framing incidents, I think, pretty much protects us, right? It protects our comfort, but it doesn't protect our security. And I think that's a real problem, that we see in leadership. And that's not just a cybersecurity issue. That's any department that you'd have. And so I think if we addressed incidents as systemic indicators first, then the after incident work would just be drastically different, to Tom's point, right? That's the discovery that we need. It's structural change. It really is.
Totally agreed. All right, Josh, do me a favor. Can you pull up the store, the CISO series store, that has all our wonderful prizes? All right, I just want to show this to everybody, because this is what you're going to be playing for. We're going to be playing a game in just a second. And these are kind of, so do we just have a still photo, or is this like the live page where you can scroll it? Yeah. Okay. So these are all the cool things you could win. You could win any of these items. What happens is you get a coupon code. You pick one item, and it's sent to you, and that's what you get. So why don't we play a game? We're all can play. I'm not going to play because I actually know this one because I've seen this game. But Nick, you can play. Tom, you can play. Everybody else can play as well.
Let's do it.
Let's do this as well. Although I don't know if we did this at the San Diego Cyber Group. I don't know. I can't remember. But go ahead, click on the little Kahoot icon. Type in your code. Put your number in there. Actually, Darius, if you can tell me the last game we played at the San Diego Cyber Group, I would greatly appreciate it. It was either this or Tragic Quadrant. I can't remember. I think it might have been this game. If it is, you may be out of luck. I can't remember. But everyone get in there. I'm going to give it a 10-second countdown very soon. We're after 10 seconds. You won't be able to play. But again, the winner will get an awesome CISO Series prize. All right. I'm going to give you a 10-second countdown starting now. Ready? 10, 9, get in there. 8, 7. We have a lot more people on that are registering. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Hold on. Nick, are you? Yeah, Nick, you're in.
Yeah, I'm in.
And Tom,
I'm in.
you're in. Okay. Yes, you're both in.
Ready to lose.
2. Okay. 2, 1, go. This is going to be easy. I think it's just 2 items you have to select. It is a pricing game. You have to tell me which one is cheaper. You will see in just a moment. Well, here, let me play some music for you. Hold on.
It's time to play a brand new game.
All right, which one is cheaper? Let's go. Webcam and duct tape or sunglasses and a hoodie? Which one's
I
cheaper?
think I know this one. Depends on where you get it. Are we talking Temu or?
By the way, hold on. Well, sunglasses hoodie. It's over. You got 10 seconds to answer these. So the answer to your question is all of these were priced out on Amazon, just so you know.
Okay.
No, we didn't play this version. We didn't play this, Darius? Okay, so this is all right. Thank you for letting me know. All right. Next game. Or next one.
Oh, I got killed.
Darius, we may play this on Wednesday, just so you know, so you won't be eligible for Wednesday, just so you know. Now that I know we haven't done this one. All right. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Tom, you're in the lead. So win this one, Darius.
Is that Amazon used?
No, not Amazon used. Which one's cheaper? LifeLock annual subscription or a 6-pack of Reynolds Wrap? I love this one.
Oh. Well, the cost of aluminum these days.
Reynolds Wraps is a little cheaper. We'll see. What is the pricing for these 2 items? We show this. Tom still in the lead. Yes, almost half.
Wow.
I think the Reynolds Wrap is worth more too.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm with you there. I am not a fan of LifeLock. Unless they're a sponsor of CISO Series, in which case I love LifeLock.
They have not sponsored us. They haven't even inquired, so who knows? All right. A door lock or a pack of wooden door wedges?
What cheap ass door lock are you? Oh
the
my
door
God.
lock is cheaper.
Oh, that
it is a cheap ass door lock.
well, the physical security side of this conversation just
Oh, Tom is on friggin'. Who is gonna catch Tom?
Wow.
Oh my God. I think we have 2 more, I think, left. So it is possible if Tom
wild.
blows it. $16 door lock. I guess you can get one.
Wow.
I mean, that's the picture of the door lock. It isn't,
Yeah. There you go. That's the data center lock, right?
All right. 1 password for families, just a month, or a ruled password notebook and a pen. So it's a notebook that says passwords on it.
Oh my God.
1 month password for 1 password for
and I like 1Password too. So
I do. We're a subscriber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They, they had
Tom
a great
did
presentation.
not win on that one. Oh, but it looks like a lot of people did not win on that one too. So it looks like you may take this away, Tom, no matter what happens on the last, because this is the last question, right? Coming up. Here we go.
It's the pen. The pen was way too expensive.
yeah, probably.
Okay, which one is cheaper? LinkedIn Premium Careers just 1 month or a Canvas hang in there poster?
Oh God.
This is my favorite comparison, the last one.
Hey, I got one.
There you go, the hang in there poster.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, I want to know if anyone's ever had a hang in there poster.
Wow.
There you go.
Oh, it's canvas. I was like, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I pay more for LinkedIn every month.
I pay it
Marketing thing. I mean, for me, it's a marketing thing.
annually, and I definitely pay
Yeah.
less than that. I think it's like half that price, something like that, if you go
Wow.
annually. All right, let's see. I think Tom, you are going to be the winner on this one. I get a feeling.
Yeah.
Renan,
You're right.
my apologies.
Oh no, that's not Tom.
Number 4 to 5. This is you, Tom. Tom, congratulations. This is, by the
Wow.
way, the first time we've had one of our guests actually winning this. So, Tom, you will get a coupon code to buy anything you would like at the CISO Series store, and we, Josh, our producer, will send that to you. So, all right. So let us move on to more questions. Nobody sent more questions. By the way, I want to remind people, I'm just going to put this, the button to register is actually above the chat room. You can see it right there, hacking employee retention for our thing. But I'm also going to put it in the lower left corner as well. Right there. There it is as well. So that's going to be up there for the rest of the show. Please register. And I want to make a call out to everybody who's there. Please stick around for our meetup. There's a lot of you there. We would love to see you at the meetup. So please stick around for that. All right, let's get to my questions for that. Geez, what a website. I bounced away from my list of questions. Let's get back to them. Let's go back to the culture question I had before, which is, let's talk about, because I think this should be done sort of periodically. And you know what? I don't do it with my team, so I should be doing it with my own team. But how do you create a culture where teams actually learn from mistakes rather than just documenting them for compliance reasons? Like, can you do a thing like, all right, let's all admit to our mistakes we made this week. What did you do? How'd you handle it? Does anyone have any suggestions how to handle it better? I mean, that'd be a great thing to bring up at a team meeting. Nick, you're mentioning your head. Have you ever done that?
Yeah. I mean, to that point, yeah, okay, the way I'm kind of looking at this, because I was thinking about this question, because we got the questions ahead of time and whatnot. I think this is really, if you're going to create a learning culture, you're closing the loop between discovery and investment. I mean, I think that's really what it is. So if you think about it, like when a team sees that like problems or arising issues that you're starting to discover, they actually lead to budget, they lead to time. They get leadership support, all of these things. Nobody's actually getting blamed for the issue, to what Tom was saying earlier. Then you stop really focusing on the appearance of everything, right? You're not playing the blame game. And I think that's one of those most important things to have. But as leaders, I think we have to be retrospective, right? But the retrospectiveness has to end with things like options that we've planned, with ownership, with follow-up, like with all of these kinds of things, and I love me compliance, right? I'm a compliance nerd, and if you're a CISO, you're all about compliance. But think about the documentation that we oftentimes create. It can become downright toxic if it's basically outside of the operational reality. I mean, how many times have we seen a policy so clean you can eat off of and nobody's doing a damn thing? Like nobody's following the process, you know what I mean? And we see it in tabletops all the time, right? Where everybody doesn't go to the playbook for incident response. They just start throwing out suggestions because we're fixers, those kinds of things. And so I think that's when it was. And somebody told me like this a while ago, and I cannot remember who it is. So I'm just going to go with Confucius. But the quote that I've always just burned into my brain is, learning is validated through absence of repetition, not completeness of artifacts. And I think that is incredibly important.
I want to also point out that if you were to do this exercise, it can really feed into the previous question. It was about finding systemic problems. Like if people are constantly talking about problems, like you can start to see a pattern. Yes, Tom?
Yeah. I'm happy to say that my team does this when we have an event.
Great.
And we come back, a couple weeks later, we go through what worked for this, but then we're like, what were our big issues, right? So it could be like, the internet went down, or there was an issue getting videos transferred or something like that. And then it becomes, well, how do we keep that from happening next time? We don't want the repetition.
Right.
Because one time is a mistake, 2 times is a pattern, and we don't want to get to 3 times, because
Shame
then
on me.
it becomes the process.
Right.
And
Right.
so then
Right.
whose responsibility was it? Who should have backed them up? And we make a note and we assign it to somebody to make sure that that problem is solved. So,
Right.
for example, oh, the internet went down while we were in the middle of streaming a video. Well, how do we fix that problem? Well, next time we are going to have a hotspot backup ready to go. In the event if the internet starts acting dodgy, then we'll just flip over to that. Yeah, we'll lose a little bit of time, but not like an hour. Or someone's laptop decided to do an update in the middle of their presentation. Well, how do we fix that? Well, we'll just toss our laptop up there, or something like that. There's always a fallback
Right.
plan, and
Right.
that way mistakes don't become crippling. They become
Right.
speed bumps.
Right. Although I do think it's important to blame the AI when it wipes the database or formats the server. Doesn't have feelings, you know.
Yeah, you're not going to hurt its feelings.
Right. But to that point, then we figure out what the heck went wrong with the AI, and let's fix that. No blame. But yeah, it's to your point. I think that's incredibly important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the culture that we have to build.
Very true. All right, we have just a few minutes left in this, and then we're going to be rolling over to our face-to-face chat. So everyone stick around for that. So this is what I feel like, and I kind of fall in and out of this myself. So one of the things, like with our team, we're trying to constantly innovate. We're trying to come up with new things. We're trying to be creative. We're trying to brainstorm. And, I realize we should be thinking about mistakes too and architecting things. But at the same time, we have our day-to-day work, and always the day-to-day work takes over, like always. And who does anyone know any person that says, God, I got all the time in the world? Nobody's like that. Like, no one is. It seems like for dealing with mistakes and dealing with growth, you have to make it a structural thing that goes into your program. But that I can see falling apart, because we've been conscious about it and then we kind of let it go after a while. Have you fallen into these traps? And if you have you been able to right the ship? Nick, what have you done in this respect?
In terms of what, just falling into
Make
just
it
that
well
pattern?
the pattern, the trying to like all this advice we're giving is good, and this advice that we're seeing here is good, but it's the forcing the structural behavior of it. I mean, like what you say, Tom, and I do this a lot with when we're doing events, of when you're after an event doing a post-mortem, reflecting on what worked, what didn't work, kind of thing. How do we fix for the next time? That's good. But when you're doing sort of ongoing work where you don't have these very sort of tentpole events, where you can have these sort of
Right.
where it's this calmness that's right after the event, it's very calm. Before and during, it's insanity, but afterwards you can calm down. When you're working full time, on just sort of not things that are tentpole events, there isn't a sense that there's a moment to do just that, if you will. And so what I'm asking you, Nick, is how do you structurally put reflection on mistakes, reflection on growth, as a more systematic thing, going back to sort of a cultural thing? Because I know we've tried it, but then we forget it and it falls away, and we get
Right.
busy, and then lo and behold,
Right.
it all comes back again.
Right. Well, when we were talking about earlier, just with, just reflecting on mistakes, what went wrong, what assumptions did I make, all that kind of stuff. I think that if I'm looking at that from a team perspective, you have to make the time. Whether it's, you're blocking off 3 hours and, at the end of an event where it is actually calm to say, okay, let's talk through these processes, what went right, what went wrong, whatever that is. But it's those moments where I think you can focus the best. If you don't feel like you're running and gunning constantly, you have the ability to actually forward think. You have the ability to plan. And that is something that oftentimes, especially when you're understaffed or there's too many demands or you don't have the spend or whatever it is, where you feel like you're going from fire to fire to fire, even in a scenario like that, I think you have to take time to sit back and reflect. Like if I'm in projects, and I'm usually in a lot of different projects or whatever, and I've got deadlines and all of that, I'm still taking time to forward think. I'm still taking time to think what happens after the project, and I think that's something that if we don't as leaders really sit down and understand or acknowledge and then convey that to our people, they're not getting that message too. To the previous conversation of just, osmosis of information, to the younger generation. So I think that's an important one. Not that I'm super old, but I guess I'm old enough, you know.
Tom, your thoughts, and then I'm going to start our wrap up.
So I think one of the best quotes that I've ever heard kind of along these lines is that if you don't schedule maintenance for your equipment will schedule maintenance for you. And
That is a good line.
Yeah,
I like
that's something
that's
you
a
have to
great
keep in
line.
mind, right? Like the
Right.
just taking a few moments, maybe at the end of the day, maybe at the end of the week, to just dump all of the things that are up here that you need to get somewhere. Write it down, type out a note, whatever. Because if it's being held up there, it's distracting you. Think about your body. Your body needs to do this every night for a few hours, right? We call it sleep, but your brain doesn't know that. Your brain is literally dumping its RAM so that it can go do things later in the day. And if you're running yourself in overdrive all the time and you're never giving yourself a chance to catch up and maybe even connect the dots, you will fail, and you will fail catastrophically.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what, how do we keep these mistakes from becoming systemic?
Yeah.
We stop and we create checkpoints in our calendar to say, am I doing the right thing? Is this how things should be going? Where am I failing? And if you can stop it before it becomes a snowball rolling downhill, you're going to be in much better shape. But
Yeah.
people who are like, no, I just got to push through. I got to keep going. I can't stop. You will stop, and it will not be when you want to stop.
Yeah. And I will also add to that, though. I think that if you're in an organization or a culture and you have the ability to essentially reduce the complexity, and which is a interesting thing to say in cybersecurity, given how we layer data security and all of that. But if you can just reduce operational complexity, you're going to find you just have more time. That if you don't have to jump through 10 hoops, maybe you only have to jump through 3, then jump through 3. Why are you jumping through 10? And I think that's important. Ownership boundaries, I think, goes alongside with that. And, in just better integration with security and operations, I think helps reduce complexity when you don't have 2 different teams trying to do 2 different things and very rarely coordinating or not coordinating as much as they should. But I think if you are able to do that to that point, then like incidents become less surprising, right? Because you're scheduling the maintenance on your car. So I think that's such an excellent point.
All right. We got to wrap this up. Everyone stay put where you are because we're going to do our meetup immediately afterwards. I just want to mention that we have our Department of No coming up. We have Jason Shockey, CISO over at Senlar FSB, and Chris Arndt, the Associate CISO of St. Luke's University Health Network. This is going to be next Monday. We often do it on Fridays when we did it as cybersecurity headlines week in review, but it's now as a Department of No. We are kicking off the week rather than wrapping it up, if you will. So that is going to happen next week. What you can do is you can go to our YouTube page and you can essentially register for that event, subscribe to that event, and you'll know when it comes up. All right, stick around for a meetup. These breakout rooms happen immediately after our show. Right there. You just put it right there. What's going to happen is when this show ends, just stay exactly where you are. It'll do a countdown that says breakout rooms being created. And when you get thrown into a breakout room, you can move in and out. You'll need to turn on your camera and your microphone to be able to converse with everyone. And then lastly, if you want to sponsor the Super Cyber Friday, email us at info@cisoseries.com. We have events, I believe, in March available right now. By the way, if I didn't mention it before, go ahead and click on that register button for the event that we're having next week. And we would love to see you there. All right. Do we have any time? We have literally less than 2 minutes. So I'm going to quickly ask you, Nick, anything we didn't bring up that we should have said? Quick, in 30 seconds.
I don't know off the top of my head. Just again, culture. That's
Culture. 2 things. Culture, slow down.
Yeah.
Tom, what else would you say?
Nobody ever learns anything from getting it right every time. Mistakes are the best teacher. So if you treat them that way, you will never feel bad for making one.
And I love
Amen
learning
to
from
that.
other people's mistakes as well. So if you want to share your mistakes, please stick around. If you don't want to share your mistakes, still stick around. We love to chat with you. Thank you very much. Thank you to Josh as well. All right, take us out. Stick around for the meetup.